Welcome everybody. We'll just give a couple more moments for people to join, and then we'll get started. So yes, welcome everybody to our webinar today, talking about DORA, and I'm very pleased to be joined today by Christoph from EBRC and Rens from ABN AMRO Bank, who will join me in discussing DORA from policy to operationalisation. Now, just before we start, just a little bit of housekeeping. So if you do have any questions as we're going through, please ask them in the GoToWebinar questions panel. We will do our best to get to all of your questions during the session, but if not, we will definitely follow up with you after the event. So with no further ado, let me pass you over to Christoph. Christoph, over to you.
Thank you, Owen. Hello, everyone. DORA for Digital Operational Resilience Act. Yes. Yes, DORA is aiming to ensure that all participants in the financial field system have the necessary safeguard in place to mitigate cyber attacks or other risks. It's about ability to prevent, adapt, respond, recover, and learn from operational disruption. Seems to establish a set of requirements based on an ICT risk management framework. That's 5 pillars. So we have an ICT risk management, ICT incident reporting, digital operational resilience testing, third-party risk management, and information and intelligence sharing. DORA will be effective from January 2025, and with some publication during the summer, this summer, from the regulatory technical standard and the implementation technical standard. So, who is concerned? Basically, that's the financial field and the insurance company or reinsurance company to the ICT third-party suppliers as well. So, as I said earlier, it's based on 5 pillars, from risk management to information sharing arrangements. So let's drill down to every pillar right now. So that's commencing with chapter 2 on the Act, ICT risk management. That's more or less based on the governance principle, based on the senior management involvement for customers who are engaged in business continuity management system or ISMS, information security management system. This is more or less the framework in order to support what DORA needs. That's also about risk management principles, so how best to control your essential functions, internal audit, and impact analysis or risk assessment. So that's based on business continuity and information security policy process procedures to prevent, protect, detect ICT-related incidents for cyber attacks, and that's based on the management system. So that's the continuous improvement through lessons learned and continuous monitoring. So that's very related to what we need to do with the standards ISO 22301, ISO 27001, and the circular from your regulator in every country. Here in the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, we have the CSSF, which is the regulator, but the CSSF will perform the audit for Europe to be sure that all the companies will be complying to DORA. Chapter 3 related to incidents management. So DORA wants to be sure that financial institutions have all the processes in place with the required level of analysis and response, communication, harmonization of reporting, content and template, industry level analysis. What does it mean? You need to perform every single component you have in the business continuity, disaster recovery plan or information security management system. And at EBRC, we want to operate every component. So we have a methodology, we have a framework, and we converted this framework into a portal, which is called the Cyber Resilience Portal. And within the very next weeks, I have to say, we'll be very happy to integrate the module of Mass Notification Pro of Everbridge to operate the component in order to be powered by Everbridge to establish this risk management framework and the ICT related incident. Chapter 4 is digital operational resilience testing. You have the obligation to perform testing and exercises with independent parties, which can be internal or external, based on yearly tests, at least for systems and application supporting your critical or important function, essential functions. You have to perform vulnerability assessment before any deployment of application and infrastructure component, and you have to perform, for sure, threat level penetration testing at least every 3 years. Chapter 5 is about how best to manage your ICT third parties. As you know, in the BCMS or ISMS, you have all what you need in terms of article clause and best practice with the ISO standards to perform questionnaires in order to master or to monitor to follow up your critical suppliers. So that's the key principle for sound management of ICT third-party risk, and you have to have a multi-vendor strategy when is applicable, and you have to be related to the outsourcing. If your circular in your country is if it's limited or not to outsourcing, you need to take this into account as well, and that's within the ISO 22301 or the ISO 27K as well. So what we do at EBRC, we have a very first phase, which is establishing and analyze your context, and then the core of the engine is phase 2, the gap assessment. So we need to understand in a very precise way what you did in terms of disaster recovery plan, business continuity plan, information security, and we have to be very granular because the assessment is based on a tool, but that's based on interviews, and we need to have some justification with evidences. So we need to, can do to the next slide. And our approach to the DORA regulation alignment. So after understanding your context and fulfill our gap assessment, we are able to deliver very specific packages in order to suggest you some remediation plan to improve where maybe it could be a lack. So that means that deep analysis, and we have to target some system of domains, and based on a very iterative approach. Last but not least, chapter 6 is about information sharing arrangements. So that's based on voluntary action. This is not mandatory, but you have to know that publishing and sharing information with and through your fields and sector is very recommended by DORA. Yes, so as I said earlier, we have this context analysis. We have to go through in very detail about information security governance, business continuity, your IT architecture. Our method is analysis through evidence. So we need to read with you policies, standards, your technical documentation, your reports, because that's very related to how do you manage your critical incidents. So that's related to major incident management committees, risk registering, and the outcome is the understanding of the context and the preparation and the pre-filling of our assessment tool to be challenged and to be reviewed. What we wanted to do with DORA, every circular in every country, and specifically here in the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, we wanted to have a global understanding, global overview of the ISO certification and the compliance to the circulars on every country. And we were very surprised that this is a very solid basis to comply with DORA requirements. If you are happy to drill down within this slide, I will be more than happy to explain you separately, maybe in another workshop. Yeah, that's what you obtain as a report at the end of the mission, which I call the gap assessment workshop, and to understand what is your DORA posture regarding every clauses article, and how best we can operate with our framework, with our methodology through our cyber resilience portal, and how best to operate this with Everbridge. And the phase 3 is to deep dive into the project and to follow up the streams you want to drill down. It can be third parties, management, business continuity, crisis management exercise, disaster recovery tests, pen test, IT risk management strategy. So that's an example. What I like to say, that's a deep analysis of the consistency of your process in place, from IT risk analysis to operational response. What you have in hand and what you have to report to your top management is the output with the gap assessment, and a very precise way to address an action plan, what I call the remediation plan, and to support to implement the mitigation on our customer infrastructure and processes to be aligned. So what we need to do is to know you, to have a meeting objective, to assess your maturity, to support you with our methodology, our framework. This is not an audit. This is based on a declarative approach. Evidences as requested to enhance the analysis, and afterwards we can support you with our tools and with our partnership of our friends of Everbridge. We'll be more than happy to have a demo on what we can do for you. Thank you, Owen.
Thank you very much, Christoph. Thank you very much for those insights. So yes, now I'm going to, excuse me, talk to you about actually how do we operationalize DORA. And as you discussed, Christoph, one of the key principles of DORA is to ensure that all financial firms can withstand, respond to, and recover from all types of ICT-related disruptions. In essence, DORA aims to enhance the digital resilience of the financial sector and protect it from potential cyber threats, ultimately to protect customer data and ensure delivery of services to customers. This is the reason DORA exists. So what I'm going to look at is 3 key stages that organizations need to undertake in order to respond to and recover from business impacting events: preparation, activation, and reporting. So let's start with preparation. The planning stage that companies have to undertake is really important. Without these, dependencies can't be mapped, responders can't be identified. However, there's 2 sides to every response. There's the planning stage, designing frameworks, completing internal and external audits, documenting and evidencing all of these things. But ultimately, many of these tools are not response ready. the tasks they help you complete are really important, but actually the other side is as important, if not more so. When a business impacting event takes place, service levels are under threat. Service levels and services to customers are under threat. And that's when the clock is ticking for you, because you have to respond. And these responses tend to fall into three main stages: the emergency response, crisis management, and recovery. But what you need is a technology solution that delivers on those capabilities, that ability to orchestrate, collaborate, and communicate, all within a digitized solution that fully integrates into the alerting components. So let's look at how some of the challenges around the actual process of activation. And these are some of the common challenges that companies face and IT systems teams face. There's too much time spent resolving issues. 72% of companies said they spent at least half or more of their time resolving issues. 50% of technical leaders feel siloed technology functions prohibit collaboration. They have communication challenges with contacting team members, which is critical to the ability to respond to and recover from a business impacting event. And 46% of companies and technical leaders felt there's a significant increase in complexity as a result of lots of tools being utilized within their environment. And of course, all of this means that if you don't have visibility into the risks and threats, you can't anticipate. If you're not prepared to respond according to the severity and the potential impact, you may be too late or too slow, which may increase the damage, increase the cost, but also may mean that you're in breach of the service level agreements, which means you have to report to the regulator. If you're unable to collect data on all aspects of how you responded, then processes can't be improved over time, which leads to inevitably continued slower response. And all of which means there's a greater risk of missing those recovery time objectives. So companies tend to follow different processes, but usually they could be coalesced into 5 steps. Detection, knowing something's impacting your systems. Rally and respond, bringing teams together in order to facilitate that response process. Investigation, understanding what's happening. And then fixing and testing. However, the challenge is that yes, we've restored our service, but actually on average, it takes over an hour to get those IT teams in place if you're using a manual process with no automation linked into detection, which unfortunately meant we missed our service level agreement. So actually simply reducing that rally and respond time with automation technology for communicating and collaborating means that we have now achieved our service level agreement by reducing rally and respond from hours down to minutes. But actually by applying technology at every stage of this process, we can deliver a much quicker response through orchestration and automation at every one of these points. So what do you need? Well, you need to know early. You might be receiving insights from your monitoring or observability solutions, or utilizing service and change intelligence within a digital operations solution. But you need all your teams to know early about events which are relevant to your operations across the globe. You need to be able to respond, because it's likely you're going to have different teams responding, but if they're in different silos with different processes and tools, that can lengthen the downtime and lengthen the disruption. So you need to digitize those plans and automate communication and tracking, and if possible, integrate with your digital and physical systems to accelerate your response time. And of course, we need to improve. You need to track and log all responses and actions for understanding improvement opportunities during the event and measuring performance post-event for the next time. You need services and technologies to help you proactively assess, have clearer insights, and understand what the issue is and how it needs to be resolved. By understanding the situation, companies can develop mitigation strategies and communicate those strategies and policies to people about the risks that are most likely to impact your organization anywhere in the globe. While DORA may be an EU regulation, people operate in many different locations around the world. By having enriched data, decisions can be made quicker and implemented, sometimes with the click of a single button. But even though your teams may know what to do during a critical event, downtime is still money. With automation first remediation, the guesswork is eliminated and baselines are met within a matter of seconds. But of course, it's important that IT incidents impact the entire business. So it's vital to incorporate a business response alongside the IT team responding, ensuring a cross-functional response to deliver that recovery of services to ensure customers are not impacted. So let's have a look at the reporting side. To continuously improve, organizations need to know what's happening in order to make changes. By utilizing facts from analysis and bidirectional integrations, systems are automatically updated and all insights need to be reviewed. This makes the improving process faster and easier. But reporting is double-edged, with companies having to report customer incidents, IT-related incidents, with additional focus on root cause analysis and incident containment, through to regulators should it be required. And finally, when you're choosing a provider, ensure a proven track record and ensure it's been validated by independent third parties. So with that, let me pass you over to Rens.
Yes, so thank you, Owen. Quick introduction. Name is Rens van Groenendaal, working for ABN AMRO Bank in the Netherlands, Amsterdam. And I'm pretty much on conclusion on how Everbridge supports us in at least being able to comply to Chapter 3 on instant reporting as part of DORA. We are under direct supervision of the GST, Joint Supervisory Team of the ECB, and I'm a member of the Business Continuity Management and Crisis Management Team of ABN AMRO Bank, meaning that we are responsible for incident and crisis management across the entire company, meaning globally as well. So therefore, like in conclusion, how did we comply to DORA in the first place? Is we have regulations and guidances coming in on a regular basis. DORA is the latest one, of course, as part of this webinar, but we are not surprised by the input from DORA, for example, as we also have like the WFT, which is our Dutch financial regulation, but also the Payment Service Directive 2 on payments for financial institutions such as banks. We have those regulations, and as part of business continuity management, for those who are working in the financial sector and you are familiar with the 3 lines of defense, we are part of the second line, meaning that we are the policy owner for crisis management policy, but also business continuity management policy. In regards to that, we convert pretty much the DORA regulation into especially the parts which need to comply to business continuity management and crisis management into our policies, which are applicable for the entire organization on a global scale. Other than that, we of course have guidances such as the Payment Service Directive, or directives, I apologize. And what we pretty much do is we look into the regulations such as DORA, and in a policy we are really strict on defining requirements, but also defining, not implementing, but defining there needs to be roles and responsibilities in place for all the individual teams across the entire organizations who are at least participating in the entire DORA event, in the case of a DORA event. Policies and standards, that's what we convert further of what we drill down to plans and procedures across the organization. And for your understanding, we have over 52 crisis teams across the organization on a global scale. We have like differentiations, etc. There's one major incident team, for example, but there are also teams in Germany or France who are responsible for local crises for all kinds. All those teams need to have plans and procedures in place according to the policies that we subscribe them to. They need to comply to. And based on those policies and standards across the organization, we ensure that we have at least like a global crisis management approach in place. So pretty much how we call them is business continuity plans, probably well familiar. Not service recovery plans, that's based on IT level. That's basically on IT level, while we look into the organizational as a whole, and we need to have crisis management plans in place. And I want to make the remark that we as business continuity management, but also crisis management, the main stakeholder within the entire bank, and we always distinguish ourselves pretty much as the control tower, air traffic control tower, to maintain an overview of the entire organization, what's happening. We're looking to business impact, client impact, but also people's impact. So it's wider than only ICT related. And that's when practical implementation comes in with Everbridge, and how we ultimately convert those, when we drill down from policies or from policies and standards to plans, procedures, to a tool, because otherwise we still work on a paper basis, and that's not most efficient, as just mentioned by Owen, let's say. So we convert those plans and procedures into the system of Everbridge to provide us with a solution to comply with the regulations, which we need to comply to from the ECB level or DNB level in NL, of course. So next slide, please. Yeah. So our practical implementation is wider than only DORA. And why am I saying that? And is that we also need to comply to PSD2, WFT. So we have already a structure in place. And I think that's the most important key takeaway for us, is that you need on a policy level a proper incident and crisis management structure in place with escalation levels and matrices, and especially a mandate. And based on that, we as business continuity management and crisis management, we are responsible for the part of instant reports to us, our regulator, to our supervisory authorities. And that's where Everbridge comes in. So within the organization, and as just mentioned, all those crisis teams work with Everbridge as part of sharing information on the situation based level. So we have, like, not all teams are available or activated at once, but we know how we can activate our teams by, for example, Everbridge, to gather the people as soon as possible, to limit the timelines on the incident, but also on recovery and report to the regulator, to make the timelines of the regulator. And for that, for example, we create templates within the Everbridge system to pretty much enforce the IT teams to deliver the information we need to deliver to the ECB, or the GST in this case, the Joint Supervisory Team, in regards to a DORA related incident in the near future, which is not, it's different, but it's not completely new according to the PSD2, which is a different guideline, but we already have to comply to some of those parts. So we need to add some additional variables. And that's where Everbridge for us kicks in, that we are able to at least share information on a really short notice towards people within the organization who need to be aware of such a situation and be able to report to the competent authorities. So what we do is we have Everbridge implemented globally on business, client, and people incidents, but also to ensure safety staff. So it's not only DORA. Everbridge is, and that's the point I want to make here, is that Everbridge within ABN AMRO Bank is the tool for incident, emergency, and crisis situations, no matter the type of kind of incidents. And that's how we embed it in our organization. So when people if people receive an Everbridge alert on their phone from the mobile app, that's an indication you need to do something, or you need, at least there is something going on. And that's how we want to keep it that way. So in that way, we are able to share information on a vast in a vast way amongst crisis teams, but also among staff, on location basis, on business line levels, on MT levels, on board levels, etc., in order to at least to meet regulatory deadlines or timelines in regards to especially DORA, but for now already PSD2, so Payment Service Directive. And I think that's pretty much the main takeaway is DORA is, for us as business continuity management and crisis management, it's another regulation. It's not completely new, but we already comply to others. So it's an add-on. So we use the existing solutions we already have and extend them by adding functionalities or variables and adjusting and tweaking some parts to comply to DORA. But that's how we at least use Everbridge, especially on ensuring resilience, even under adverse circumstances. That's how we say it. So, and I hope that gives a proper idea about how we implement Everbridge, but also in regards to the DORA regulation coming ahead of us.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you very much, Rens, and thank you, Christoph. So at this point, I'd like to open the floor up to any questions. Just a little reminder, if you put your questions into the GoToWebinar control panel. But we've had one here already. And Christoph, Rens, both of you, please, feel free to jump in. But what specific challenges do organisations face in effectively implementing and operationalising the requirements outlined in DORA?
Yes, I have to say that Rens is absolutely right. This is not something new in the field of regulation. So the main concern to me is this is still a top management project, because you need to embark all the employees. You need to have a lot. You need to perform a lot of awareness session, training session, in order to do the right way to monitor, to operate your crisis management exercises, or if it happens in the real life. So this is not something new, but this is a good opportunity to improve and to enhance the way you perform cyber resilience or resilience in the past to that moment. Rens?
Yeah, I think what we identified is that we already have procedures in place. We did a bit of backward thinking. So we have a gap analysis based on the entire DORA regulation. What we saw is that there are like shredded information across IT teams or development teams, but it was not, I wouldn't say properly, but it wasn't structurally described in policies. What I just described, you have like regulations, you have policy standards, plans, procedures, and ultimately a tool. We had some parts, but not in a uniform way, written down in service recovery plans or business continuity plans, but not structurally placed on a policy level. So I think DORA forces you to bring it up to the next level and make it a structural part of your business, let's say, instead of a section in a service recovery plan, for example. I hope that sufficiently helps to understand how I look at it from a bank view.
No, perfect. Thank you both. Now, we've had this question in from Tim. You both seem to be managing DORA from your BC teams, but not from IT. Is that right? And how is this approach operating when the requirements are all from IT?
First of all, because I'm a second line, so I'm not. I cannot implement it on operational level, let's say. So we do it from policy levels. But ultimately, our IT team, which is a couple of thousand people wide, we have a major incident team in that. So we are at the table in those discussions, but we are not the owner. And for those who are familiar with the three lines of defense model, as we are the second line, we cannot be the owner of the individual plans on that level, let's say. So we are in the discussions more as a consultant, in a consultancy way. Mm-hmm. But those are the knowledgeable people as well to do the operational work. So we go one level up from incident level. And maybe good to know is that we have escalated. My first tip was about incident and escalation levels, to have a proper mandate level of a mandate structure in place. We call it, you have incidents, and of course now we're talking about major incidents, which is quite a shift. We have incidents and crises, and we work with let's say five levels, and the top two levels are for us a crisis, and that's when we come in as a 24/7 team on duty as well, facilitating crisis management across the organization. All others, like incidents level 0, 1, 2, are instant levels. That's where we got informed, but we got not an active involvement. And I think we have those teams in place, and when they escalate towards a crisis situation, we always got into those calls as well. And I think that's the dynamic you need to search for within your organization. That's what we're struggling with, sometimes, because every major incident needs to be reported to the regulator according to DORA, of course. How you will respond on those incidents. So what is your mandate?
Yeah, no, I think for me, and Christoph, I'll let you have a view shortly, share your views. But actually, one of the key components of DORA, yes, it's obviously digital driven, but ultimately it's around delivery of service to a customer, which is actually the responsibility of the entire entity. So, it might be for some businesses, it's being, business continuity is taking, in quotes, the lead. But it requires an IT response, a business response, a collective cross-functional response in order to be able to recover the services for the customer. So I think maybe there's some differentiation between different organizations who is the driving force behind it, but ultimately the end goal is the same. I know, Christoph, if you have a...
Yes, you're absolutely right, Owen. To me, this is all about how do you want to collect your information when you're facing to an event. An event can have a financial impact, reputational, or on your operation. This is not only a techie thing. So you could have a qualitative impact or a quantitative impact. So that's the way you have to assess your event, because an event can be an incident, and an incident can be converted into a crisis or a disaster. So that's the main challenge. That's the main challenge to me.
Oh, fantastic, thank you. We've had a question in from Michaela. How long did the overall procedure mapping and stakeholder involvement and implementation take for you, Rens? I think more one for you than Christoph, perhaps there. But how long did it all take?
You mean
well, I suppose the question is, do you feel you've DORA tick? Have you finished it? But how long has the process taken you?
You mean from the part that we probably received that we need to comply ultimately to? We expect to be ready by the start of Q3 2024. So it took us over a year, including which is the entire organization, including subsidiaries and international entities as well. That's a side note to make. Yeah.
Very, very big effort. I don't know if there's any more questions. We've had one around sort of third party implementation of DORA. Maybe Christoph, you have something you can share on that. So more for the sort of non-financial sector people. Manuel specifically mentioned transport, but I'm not sure if maybe we extend that out to a wider piece as far as third-party compliance to DORA.
Yes, this is a very big challenge, because to monitor and to tame this concept of monitoring your critical supplier is very key for organization. But if you are looking and deep diving on the on the management system, on the ISO 22301 or 70K, you have some guidelines, some tips in order to monitor these critical suppliers, but that's based on very regular basis. You need to have some questionnaire campaign that's based on due diligence, and you have to track the contract if it's if the SLA is aligned with the RTO or the RPO. That means related to the essential function, critical function, or critical activities or critical applications. You need to be aligned with your internal IT capabilities or internal third-party capabilities, and that's a project within the project.
Fantastic. And we did have one question specifically for you, Christoph, from Stephanie about if you can give a little bit more context around the gap assessment.
Yes. Context. What do you mean? Is the prereq to start?
Yeah,
with the
maybe that, or the process, or a little bit more detail was the question. But maybe we can a quick answer if you can, but then we'll provide Stephanie a more detailed answer afterwards.
Yes, what we need to understand prior to begin the remediation project plan is to understand the context, to have a very precise analysis of what the company does, is performing, and if the company is engaged regarding business continuity plan procedures, operational procedures, information security as well, disaster recovery plan. What is the level of maturity regarding compliance, resilience, and that's the key thing to move forward. And afterwards, we can drill down into the questionnaire and to see if the company, if the customer is mature enough, or this is a big gap or a small gap to comply to DORA. But I'm more than happy to drill down into a specific workshop with her. No problem.
Fantastic. So first and foremost, Christoph, Rand, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And
pleasure.
to all our attendees, thank you very much indeed for your attention today. We've had loads of questions coming through, so we will follow up, I promise you, for answers on each individual person's question. But finally, thank you very much indeed, everyone, for joining us today, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. Thank you very much.